decentralized social media, new creator economy, and data ownership rules.
First, I'd like, Stoyan, could you introduce yourself, talk a bit about who you are and what you've done in this space?
First, thank you for the introduction. Before that, what is Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, because usually the people don't understand actually how big difference is this between these numbers, you know. I'm Stoyan Angelov. I'm a founder of Evedo ecosystem, which is already 6 years on the market, building some products for the events and entertainment industry, also related with Web 3, and of course now we implement some AI stuff. And I'm happy to be here and to share some personal experience about our businesses, our experience in Web 3, and some realistic expectations for the people that are going to start doing something in Web 3, or to give some good lesson to people that are already in and share my thoughts and experience. Thank you.
Excellent. Wesley, can you tell us a bit about yourself and what you've done in this space, in the entertainment space?
I'm Wesley Ellul. I'm the Special Envoy for Startup Funding and Innovation with the government of Malta, but I'm also an entrepreneur multi-time over, both in the skill game space as well as media, and have been working in entertainment a very long time. What I've been doing in the blockchain space for a long time, a lot of it has been observing and consulting. I haven't been building a lot, but helping people build a lot, because it's one of the things, at least what I found in this space, is timing is everything in being successful. Web3 is a very new technology, and what happens with it, if you don't hit it at the right time, can actually kill you, because unfortunately token price means a lot to a lot of people, although the underlying technology is what really excited me in this space. So last 6 years, since 2017, I've been helping a lot of businesses understand the technology side and helping them get into the space at the right time with their technologies.
Excellent. So I'd like to start with you, Wes. So what is the status quo of social media, and where do you see this heading?
Okay, this is quite an interesting question, especially in light of what's just happened in the recent elections in the US. We've just seen X literally blow through the roof and change the entire election in the US because they allowed for free, unmoderated speech. Now, this is not something that happens on Meta's platforms. Meta highly structures the data you see. It says it's doing it for your own good, the things you like, but it creates an echo chamber. It doesn't allow you to hear other opinions. The current social media is really not about you, but it's about the advertisers and ultimately the platform making money. Because it is a centralized platform and they have their goals, and sometimes their goals are money, sometimes their goals are influence. So where we are today in social media is all about keeping everything to the powers that be and not to the actual people, except for X, which is actually quite wonderful. It's even open sourced. You can find out what it takes to go viral just by reading the code, and that's the way tech should be, whether it's Web 3 or Web 2.
Indeed. So again, at any point, if anyone want to jump in, just jump in.
Yeah, I would love to see a social media where you are having your own soul-bound token in your login, and you receive information every time when someone use or interact with your content, and they are open to get approval to use your content. For advertising, let's say, you can decide, okay, that's my content, that's my data. You can use it to advertise through to this and this and this type of companies. You know, it can be so well controlled and in the hands of the user, which will actually fill also the pockets of the content creators, not only the platform owners. Indeed. Which is, I think, something that is coming. And I would love to see the first platform that is really doing it. And I will be first user there.
Indeed. So I'm also going to go unscripted at some points. And then it makes me wonder, so it's great that X did it. It's great to go in this direction. But do the people really care about this? Are we seeing the people want to go in this decentralized social media world? That's one question.
Can I just, sorry, just to proceed with my thoughts, because when people realize that they can monetize their content and they can control who have access to, they will start doing it because there will be some real economy in the ecosystem. Otherwise, now you don't care. You don't understand why you see these advertisers, and you are filling the pockets of the platform owners, and you are manipulated on that way as well. But when it's in your hands and you have the ability to understand and see like 1, 2, 3 who is using that and what you earn actually from your activity, that's beautiful.
Indeed.
So I want to jump on that. Do the users care? What do really, let's ask the question, what do the users care about? Most of the users, they care about being heard and seen. Would everybody in the audience agree to you? On social media, what do you want to be? Heard and seen. That is possibly the only reason why you're there. Maybe to also consume other people's content. But it's about, if you do share something, you want your friends and those who follow you to see it. And with social media being controlled in many different ways and being restricted like that, you're not getting the ultimate benefit of what you want. You're getting what they want. In fact, this is something very interesting because I think I've been in Facebook since 2008. In its first year I was there. I remember my social reach on, let's say the birth of one of my children. That would get 1,000 likes out of my 4,000 friends. And 4,000 people would have seen it. Hey, Josh, welcome to the stage. I don't know the school. So today, or last week, I announced that we're having our 4th baby this week. And I
Applause.
Yeah, thank you. Right after Sigma, just to make sure I don't get any sleep. But we're having our 4th baby this week. It didn't reach more than 1/4 of my friends. Now, it could be my friends hate me and they don't want to speak to me anymore and whatever. But the reach is not there, and what's being prioritized is advertiser space and space within all the content, and it's not allowing for a free flow of information. And that's what I think users want first and foremost. Payments is great, don't get me wrong, but they do want to know they have the opportunity to be seen and heard.
I hope that's the case. I mean, I really hope we see this decentralized social media world. Whether we're going to see it, I just hope that we will see some change, because they do control a lot of the narrative, and that's a bit worrying. So if we look at the Web3 space, do we see a large divide in traditional web platforms, Web2 platforms, and Web3 ones? Do we see some convergence? And how do you see this new change impacting advertisers, content creators, and also where are we seeing some new platforms, some new use cases emerging? Josh, maybe you want to start with this.
Yeah, I think well, first of all, I think when we start blending the two and it's not a Web3 versus Web2 game anymore, that's when we really get a lot of adoption for it. I think there's a lot of people building on the Web3 space, but they're building in their own silos. It's very like segregated and spread across the internet. And everyone's searching for audience. So how do you find audience when you're spread across the internet? And so I think we're going to see a lot of consolidation. And we'll see a lot of different platforms that stop talking about Web3 and just start making things better with a better user interface, a better experience, and frictionless to use.
Indeed. I mean, my mom is probably the most avid user on Facebook, and that's because she can use Facebook. But my mom cannot use crypto keys. So until we get around our tech interface, and that comes with less decentralization, we're going to be in this particular space. Wes, what do you think?
Yeah, Mum does use a lot of social media. No, but on the UI UX space, yes, it is. We have to stop talking about the underlying tech as the key feature of what we're doing. I'll give you an example of my platform. So I have this skill game platform, live game show platform, which was centralized. And what we decided over the last 18 months was to decentralize it for 2 reasons. One, we're just creating another Facebook scenario where we're collecting all the data. But 2, let people use things in their own way on their website. So we are going decentralized in the fact that our game can now be run on any website in the world. We're also building it on blockchain. We're not talking about the fact that we're building on blockchain. We're talking on the fact that, hey guys, you can now use influencers on your own website. You can create games live on your website and events live on your website where you're going to be the owner of the data and you get to convert those people at a very high rate. So it's still centralized to an extent, And will we see full decentralization? Yes, once the right player comes in and has the right marketing power behind it. In the meantime, we'll happily see these nice Web 2.5 versions. But everything needs to be under the covers. We don't care about what database you're using. We care about what it does and how it affects us. And that is the ultimate narrative that any product should have.
Stoyan.
Actually, I agree here, maybe 99.99%. And, you know, a lot of people ask me when I start speaking about, okay, we have the Web3, we have this and this application, and they say, okay, why you use it? Why you use Web3 at all? Like, why it's not just a website that is solving the same problem? And then, like, one of the only things that actually can change the narrative here on this question is that you own your data, and this is the big difference. And what I want to see more as a social media based on Web3 and blockchain and all this stuff is like better user interface and easier way to use the platforms, because this I think is the showstopper to have one big Web3 platform as a social media now. Like if you have people want this experience that they have in Facebook, that they have in TikTok, in Instagram, in whatever else. Like this interface is based on billions and billions of interactions to be like this, you know. And you just because we have some Web3 stuff and we do something that nobody can understand how to use. And this is a big showstopper, in my opinion. And
I just want to jump in. I really do see decentralization of social media being not social media in a place or on maybe in an app, but like I know projects like there's a web browser that's building a social layer over top all the internet. So you can go to any website and engage and post on that website and give comment and review and interact with people, and you've done it with your own little key, and it's done over the internet. It's an overlay on top of what's happening. And I think it's going to be social everywhere rather than social in a place. I think we're going to see the next version of Netflix, which will be a social platform in itself, which will bring community and the content together and have interactive games. And we're going to see these sort of like mega apps, very much like we've seen in Dubai with the sort of shopping thing where you can shop, eat food, or hail your taxi and that sort of thing. We're going to see a lot of this sort of convergence of social into thing. We're seeing it in gambling. We're seeing it this. But the only key element that's missing is you're always a different person from place to place. So we do need that identity protocol that allows you to be the same person as you traverse the different spaces. And that's where blockchain does have a great usage.
It might actually work this time, because Facebook tried this. Facebook, I remember a number of years ago, you could go to any site and you could interact on Facebook on any site, and it seemed like it didn't work that well. And I'm not sure if that's the reason, because there was lack of identity across platforms. So that's one thing that's coming to mind. And the main problem that I'm still trying to get around is we're creating all of these decentralized social media platforms and Web3 platforms in general. How the hell do we get users on these platforms to make it a success from day one? Because
content.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's exactly what we've been building. So I'm a little late, but I'm a co-founder of a project called PKT, and we're building an aggregate of all of these platforms. And we get stuck in this social media concept, but it's really media. I mean, we're getting our news from Facebook. You're getting your news from Twitter or X. I mean, sorry, I'm old school. But this is where people get their media from. This is where people are streaming content. Now you're getting short-form content on these platforms. So there's become a blur between social media, media, content. It's all kind of one thing now. And what we've been seeing, and as I was saying earlier, that this is all kind of scattered across the internet. And so we've created the PKT hub, where all of these platforms can exist on decentralized infrastructure, and where people are paid to run that infrastructure to power the network. And so the reason why decentralization is important is because what are you going to build that on AWS? You're going to build this on the most centralized infrastructure there is. And so you need that underlining network layer and to be able to aggregate it all together, because people are going to these sources for all of it. It's not just like I go to Facebook for Meta for my social, I go to, Fox for my news. Like, it's all in the same place. Fox is on Meta and is on X. And so being able to create an ecosystem where all of this can exist, I think you'll be able to pool audience into a single place where everybody's pushing people to their platform, but discover is possible within an ecosystem. And I think that's crucial for where we are in this inflection point for content and media.
Indeed. So this then makes me think about, it's true, it's not just about social media, it's about media nowadays. We're getting most of our content from our networks. Can we trust our networks, our friends, instead of our news corporations? And how do we build trust in these individual users when we no longer have that anchor point to look towards?
The problem is we don't have trust in the major networks. I mean, again, if you took US media as mainstream media as a narrative, Trump was not going to win. Everything was against Trump there. But in the social networks, it was very different. The people on the street were very different when it came down to it. And the thing is, the only thing we can sort of trust is those people around us, which we do trust, which we do have faith in. So when our mother asks us about Bitcoin, she knows we're not going to lead her astray and tell her, oh, don't buy that stuff, it's complete rubbish, or buy it. She's going to trust us on that. And that's the only trust we really have today because we don't know what else is at play. So yeah, it is our social network, which is our grounding point for trust.
Yeah, and the trust actually is the key word here, because the blockchain and Web3 is giving trust. It's giving transparency. It's giving a way you to understand actually how the things are working and why they're showing to you. Also, like Wesley mentioned earlier about the X algorithm, that it's open. This is, I think, the only big media that is with open algorithm. Because in Facebook, you don't know when you are manipulated or when you are advertised. You know, like this is so big problem that we see on our everyday life now, that we are manipulated. There is a huge narratives that are against something. People are fighting in these social medias instead of make something creative and good. You know, and and when people understand that maybe big part of this is manipulation, because the algorithm works on that way, and someone hacked the algorithm and he put like 1,000 comments here and it shows to 1 million people. You know, this is something that it's very important in the social media, on the new reality, which is the Web3 reality, need to be very transparent and to use the tokenization actually to give some kind of transparency of what is happening and who is doing the growth hack, let's say.
For sure. And it's great that X have open sourced. That gives us a lot of transparency. But the ironic thing is we cannot know for sure whether they're really running that algorithm. And what would be great then is, let's take this a step further and say we put more of that algorithm in decentralized code, because then we know exactly what is being executed. But my question is now, if we start to use the centralized code and we have less control, or there's less controllers, what do we do when something goes wrong? What do we do when there's child pornography circulating? How far do we take this decentralization to get rid of these central powers? What do we do?
What do we do in the normal world? We report and let the actual community decide, because that's what happens. If there is someone doing bad in your community, you go to a police officer, you go to a neighbor or whatever, and you let people know that this is happening. The community is the ultimate decider when it comes down to these things.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to governance and how you govern your protocols. You know, that's one of the things that we're really focused on with PKT as well, is with a proof of stake vote, allowing people to vote to say, hey, this is not aligned with the community. You get majority vote, and then that thing is no longer peered within that network. So I think being able to put that up to the community, but you know, this whole concept of like free speech, I mean, we could go very political on this, but it's a slippery slope because everybody has their own agenda, right? You got Fox News, they got their agenda. You got MSNBC, you got their agenda. You got X with Elon, he's got his agenda. You know, everybody has their agenda. And so letting people kind of decide for themselves is step one, but step two, where things are actually nefarious or illegal or should not be, being able to put governance in there is super important. And like you said, leaving it up to the community to decide, because some people don't want to be limited. Some people want free range and want to be able to see all that and just drink out of the fire hose, and some people do want to be moderated and to be limited. So it really just depends on the person and being able to have the tools where that's possible.
My opinion here is that there are quite sensitive topics like child pornography, like some violation of human rights that you can see on the social media. Like there need to be some underlying algorithm that is actually excluding this stuff, and everyone agrees that this algorithm works on that way. When there is a content that is with violation of the rights that everyone is in consensus with, they're just because you don't need to wait operationally. Okay, people need to vote to exclude that content. But if this is a child pornography and it reach 10 million people before you vote it, it's not good. It's something that will kill the project, the social media. Yeah.
I agree and I disagree. We're in a space where the rules are changing all the time. What was obscure or taboo 10 years ago is mainstay today. And again, it is down to governance, it's down to community voting, it's down to setting guidelines within the community, but those guidelines in the blockchain space should also be flexible to how society is changing and reacting. I'm very conservative in my, I would prefer fixed rules, but that's not how society works, and let's be real. So it needs to have rules that allow for this thing to evolve and change, and the set of guidelines and content and things will change over time. I remember when you couldn't ever see a naked person on television, and now the best-selling TV shows are full of it.
So this is getting towards the code versus law debate. A lot of people in this space say that code is law, and whatever it says in code is the law, and we subscribe to that. One problem with code is if there's a bug, it will execute that bug faithfully. And then we have the law on the other side, which should be on top of the law. Now, we often see these things as code versus law, but is there some synergies between code and law together? Where do you draw the lines?
Actually, we see now this with MiCA, right? Because MiCA is a regulation that is regulating the code and how people are operating, how they're working. And I think that it will apply to all the verticals in the digital world.
Yeah, I think not everything needs to be decentralized. You know, like there's this idea of just being like a libertarian. It's like, yeah, kill the Fed, everything, anarchy. You know, it's like some things should be decentralized if it's required for them to be decentralized. Some things should be centralized. It could be centralized, built on decentralized infrastructure. It depends on what the business use case and the logic is. And so it's kind of hard to just blend everything into a pot and just say like everything is one, because it is very different depending on if you're, making movies versus saying news versus social media. And I don't think it can be all just one topic, as they are very different. And they have different users and different user experiences and different stories and different people. And people go, maybe it's the same person going to the same things, but they have different reasons that they're doing each thing. So I think it really goes up to the platform, and that's why we've really been focused on the infrastructure. It needs to be decentralized. It needs to be sovereign and censorship resistant, but the platforms that live on top of that, those can be centralized, and those can have a business use case, and those can be for profit, and that's fine, and they can all be in the same ecosystem. People that want to get Netflix still, they should be able to get Netflix. If you want to go get decentralized media, you should be able to do that, but it should all happen in the same place, and get away from these protocol terms that make people confused or scared and not get access to the stuff that actually they should have access to. We just use big, buzzy words that confuse people.
Indeed. Wes, any
Yeah, the code is law, the code is code, and let's be honest, code changes. I've seen a couple of code changes over the years that were required. It's regulation is important. It's important to be there. It's important to assign responsibility, because that's what we haven't had in the blockchain space, where who is ultimately responsible? Is it the issuer? Is it the coder? Is it blah, blah, blah? But these things need to come into play for us to grow up into a more mature Web3 society. The code, yes, ultimately it's the code that runs the script, but whoever published it is ultimately responsible, in my opinion, and that's where we should go from there.
Excellent. So to close off, we're going to ask Olga to have a follow-up panel in 10 years' time. And I'd like to ask, where do you think we will be in 10 years' time when it comes to social media, when it comes to the traditional social media and decentralized social media? Whoever wants to go first. And
No, I'll jump in. I've already said it. It's going to be social everywhere. I do feel that we're going to find the first identity-based. The first one is going to be an identity-based social media, which can be both pseudonymic as well as real person, where you traverse multiple different websites, shopping platforms, etc., where you have a history which follows you and you give the information that you want to give, which is relevant. I see even within Europe, there's a number of solutions being talked about now that allows us to jump from platform to platform to platform without having to KYC every time. So and that's where I see social media going, just being social on every platform, be it a gambling website or Netflix.
Actually, I'm with the same vision, and here, like, the most important is the digital identity to be transferable. And the blockchain technology is giving you the opportunity with one token or with one wallet or whatever you use as a Web3 sign to have this digital identity that you can use in all the social medias, and you can exclude the social medias that you don't like and you don't understand how they work, for example. And you put your trust is in your hands, and with your digital identity, you use about social media, you use about your personal banking, you use about applying for e-government documents and all this stuff that we have even now, but it's not so centralized on the decentralized way that we are expecting, right?
Excellent. And Josh?
Yeah, I think the power is going to be given back to the people. I think there's a movement that's happening right now. We're seeing it with crypto as the markets are exploding. We're seeing it with deregulation. We're seeing a lot of this movement that's happening right now. And I think that power is going to be given back to the people very soon. And people are going to just use technology the way that you use technology now. It's just you're gonna own your own data. You're gonna be able to have more control. You're gonna be able to access the content you want. You're gonna be able to make your own decisions and not have monopolies making decisions for you. And I think that power is quickly being regained by the people, and that's really the power of crypto.
Excellent. Thanks to our panel, and wishing you the best of days for this conference. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.